I read 8 books across 2,673 pages with over 21 hours of audiobook listening. December was a really great month for my reading. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to fit a lot in. I was travelling a lot in December and seeing a lot of people, as many of us do, but it worked out very, very well for me. For the rest of my stats, I did 1.5 rereads, you'll see. I read 2 middle grade books and the rest were adult books. 5 of the books were from English authors, 2 were from Americans and 1 was from a Japanese author. And the genres was 1 horror, 2 fantasy, 2 mystery, 1 non-fiction, 1 classic and 1 contemporary. I had a pretty decent rating, with my average rating being 4.5 stars. Why am I putting it below me like you can see it? 4.5 stars. I'm pretty happy with that. My first read of the month was a 4-star read and one of the middle grades, and that is The Haunting of Aveline Jones by Phil Hicks. I wanted this to be spookier. That was the only issue I had with this. I loved the way that the responsible adults reacted to the kids telling them about these spooky things. They didn't just blow them off, and I loved how they actually listened and cared. I also thought that the story development was done really well, and I definitely want to read more. I know that this is like a little series and I want to pick up the rest of them because this was quite a bit of fun. Then I finally read Legends in Lattes by Travis Baldree. Oh my god, this took me forever, and yes, I loved it. 5 stars. Is anyone surprised? No. This is amazing. This is such a great book. It's so cozy, it is so fun, it has just the right amount of tension of like stuff is happening while still being like really chill and cozy and cute. I don't know if I'm going to read the prequel. No, that's a lie. I am going to read the prequel. I don't know if I actually wanted a prequel. Like, I feel like I want a sequel. I don't care about before. I want more of the cute. But I love this so much. There's a recipe in the back here for the thimblets, which I would love to make at some point, so I might have to do that. And I would die for thimble. Just to let you all know. Obviously 5-star read. Then, unfortunately, my lowest rated book of the month, but I was kind of expecting that given the nature of it, and that is The Very Very Murder Club, edited by Serena Patel and Robin Stevens. The nature of it being it's multiple different short stories by different authors, so I rated each short story and then gave it an average. So some of the short stories really did bring this one down, unfortunately. There were some that I was not keen on, but there were a couple that I absolutely adored. So specifically The Ticking Funhouse, The Frost Wilds, and The Coven at Christmas. I really enjoyed those 3. Those were my favourites. Those would have gotten like 4.55 stars. They were a lot of fun. But yes, this is a fantastic middle grade collection. I adore how diverse this is. Every single story is diverse, and I feel like that is something that we really need to push in kids books, because obviously it's quite easy to slip into just going for the traditional Enid Blyton, Roald Dahl. You need to add some colour. So this is fantastic. I think that it is a really fun set of stories to read, and I loved reading it with Celine from Stuff Celine Reads. It was so much fun to buddy read it with her. So yeah, very glad I read this one, but unfortunately it was the lowest rated. But I will be keeping an eye out for the stories by those 3 authors, because I don't read a lot of middle grade. I don't read a lot of anything that isn't just adult, but those were a lot of fun. 4.5 stars. I finally read The Unseen World by Liz Moore. The wonderful Alex from Alex Black Reads gifted me this years ago? I don't know how many years ago, a while ago, because she read it and loved it, and so she wanted more people to read it. Best way to get someone to do that, buy them the book. Took me a while, but I got there. I had been putting it off because I don't tend to read much contemporary, and so it was just like, oh, you know, the pressure of like someone loved this book and I don't really read contemporary as it is. Technically this is a historical fiction because a lot of it is set in the 80s, but like, bite me. I loved this. It made me cry, only really at one part, kind of like here-ish. So basically we are following a young girl called Ada and her father, who is this like eccentric computer developer, to simplify it massively, and he ends up with Alzheimer's. The reason I cried is because Liz Moore's depiction of someone with Alzheimer's is so incredibly accurate. My gran has recently, in the past year, been diagnosed with it, and it was hitting a lot of those pressure points, so I did have to put it down for a bit, just because it hit a bit too close to home. If you don't have the same problem I do, you should be fine. But I really did love this. I loved the mystery that was interwoven in it of who Ada's father actually truly is, because of course you can't ask him with him having the Alzheimer's. And there is actually representation woven into this as well. There's gay representation, and I it's just so well done. I don't know if I'll pick up anything more from Liz Moore just because I don't tend to reach for these kind of more contemporary stories. However, I highly recommend this one. I really do. Obviously I gave it a 4.5, it wasn't quite a 5-star for me, but I really did enjoy it. This is a beautiful book. Another book I've been putting off for far too long. Pompeii by Mary Beard. I've had this since 2016. I know that because I have the receipts in the front of it from when I bought it from the works. And I just felt really intimidated by it. The writing in this is tiny. Obviously it's a non-fiction. Mary Beard is renowned, and so yeah, I was just intimidated and didn't pick this up for ages. But it was on my non-fiction November TBR. I didn't get to it, and so I was like, right, gonna do it in December. And I learnt from reading The Earth Transformed that I do really well with potentially more difficult non-fictions by listening to the audiobook while I read them. And so I did this with this one as well. That's part of my audiobook hours, and it worked fantastically. Highly, highly recommend. It's not narrated by Beard, but the narrator, she does a great job. And this is just so good. It's actually really entertaining, it's written really engagingly. Yes, the writing is small. If you can potentially get a different version where the writing is bigger, then that would probably help. But yeah, this was really great. There was some stuff that I did already know. I have been to Pompeii a few times and really am quite interested in that aspect of ancient Roman history, so there was stuff I already knew, but there was a lot of stuff that was new, that was really interesting. Me and my partner went to Pompeii last summer, 2022, and so with that being more fresh in my mind than my previous visits, being able to kind of link these specific locations that she's talking about with the actual places was really great. And it's just so well done. It is so well done. If you are at all interested, I highly recommend. I'm super excited now to steal my partner's copy of SPQR written by Mary Beard because this was so good and so enjoyable. I ended up at my parents' house where I went for Christmas, sat separately away from my parents with my headphones in, listening / reading this book while they watched TV, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna read this. And I read it mostly in 2 days, one of those days being Christmas Eve. It was really good. Then speaking of Christmas Eve reading, one I read on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, as is tradition for me, is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. This is a 5 out of 5. This is the perfect novella. There is nothing that could be improved upon in this book. It's perfection. If you don't know, this is the Scrooge story where the bloke gets visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present and future and gets him to stop being such a knob, essentially. And I love it. I get more and more out of this every single time I read it. I focus on like more little minutiae and more details than I did on the other time. And it's 100 pages, like this short edition is 100 pages. It doesn't take long to read, and I'm so glad that I continue the tradition of reading it every year. It's so much fun. It's actually my highest rated book every single year, I think, because I just give it 10s across the board in core pile. Then for my highest rated book of the year other than A Christmas Carol, this one isn't a reread. You see what I mean, right? That is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, the 10th anniversary edition, and I have the beautiful broken binding edition here. I read and loved this, 5 stars, no one is surprised. I read and loved the original when it came out. It's back there somewhere. If you're wondering whether you should read this version of The Bone Season or the original one that came out 10 years ago, I would very much say this one. This is improved by Shannon's extra 10 years of experience with writing. Whilst I adored the first book and gave it 5 stars originally, this does iron out those little kinks that do come just from inexperience. I don't think you're losing anything from the first book. If you end up being a major fan, you can go back and reread it, but I don't think you're missing anything if you read this one and you don't read the original. So yeah, I recommend picking this one up if you are new to the series and to Samantha Shannon as a whole. I just love this series so much. It's one of my all-time favourites. I'm so excited to go through this and the original Bone Season book and compare them and see exactly what changes that she's made. But it's beautiful. It felt just so nice to be back in this world again. I love this book so much. It's perfection. Perfection. My final book of 2023, which I actually read entirely on the 31st, and that is The Goodbye Cat by Hiro Arikawa. So this is a selection of 7 short stories about cats translated from Japanese. I have read The Travelling Cat Chronicles by this author previously, which is why my partner got me this for my birthday. I was going to say this year, but last year, this year, 2023. And I loved this. Out of the 7 stories, the 2 at the end are actually related to the Travelling Cat Chronicles, which I didn't know going in, so when I reached the stories and was like, wait, I recognise these names of the cat and the person, it was such a lovely surprise, and you get more in-depth about, you know, the past of these characters. So I really did enjoy that, and the other 5 stories are great as well. One of them is very, very short, but it's still enjoyable, and the rest of them are just, you just get so absorbed in so quickly. I will say, there is a weird thing about cat testicles in this book. What a fucking sentence. There are 2 short stories which both, one time each, mention cat testicles and how they are cute furry balls. I think it's a translation of culture issue. I think that that's potentially like just like a common funny thing that's said in Japanese, just the way it's been written out in the English, translated by Philip Gabriel. Just, yeah, the way that he's writing it, I feel like it's probably something that's like a funny, normal statement in Japanese and in their culture, and when you just translate it direct to English, the English readers are like, why the fuck are you talking about its balls? I think that's what's happened there. So yeah, just be aware. It's just a brief mention, but it did take me out of both stories just for a second of like, why are we talking about the cat's testicles? But yes, other than that, this was great. Another 5-star read for me. I absolutely adore any Japanese cat books. This one also does reference I Am a Cat, which is one of the classic Japanese cat books that I read in 2022, I believe, and really enjoyed. It's just done so well. It was a great book to end the year on, and this entire TBR was a great TBR to end the year on. I had, you know, a reread and an almost reread of some favourites. I had some fascinating non-fiction, some cosy fantasy, and just a good time overall. I am not in frame. But I did. I had a great time with this TBR. It was absolutely fantastic. I managed to curate myself a fantastic end of year list, if I do say so myself. Let me know what your favourite book that you read in December was. Obviously, technically mine is A Christmas Carol, but that's a reread, and then The Bone Season, but that's a reread, so I guess we're going for... what's the next highest? It's The Goodbye Cat. There we go, there's the next highest rated. But yeah, I had such a great time. You know it's a good month when you're struggling to pick the best book. Obviously this is my last wrap up for 2023, and it's being published in 2024, but leave me be. If you would like to see how my reading goes in this brand new year, and if you would like to see how my reading overall has gone in 2023, as well as my TBR for 2024, any goals, any stats, all of that good fun, please do hit subscribe. It's down below, and I will see you folks continuously in this new year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!